Many of our elected officials and leaders have been acknowledged. I do want to acknowledge the presence of Superintendent Adrienne Harris. What an extraordinary job she has done in the last year, stepping up to lead a complex organization, Department of Financial Services, but she does it with the authority, but also the depth of understanding that I wanted to have. So I said I would assemble the dream team, and she is further evidence that I've succeeded in doing that. So Adrienne Harris, thank you. Thank you for all you do. I know our elected officials are acknowledged, but there's two who are going to be hearing from shortly, and those are the sponsors of the bills that we'll be signing. Senator Kevin Thomas, bill sponsor, is going to be speaking shortly, and Assemblymember Harvey Epstein. I want to thank both of them for understanding the challenges that our young people are under and helping them, give them some relief here. As mentioned, James Davis, the president of the Professional Staff Congress, CUNY, is going to be speaking, as well as Fred Kowal, president of United University Professions. And I've worked with Fred for, I think, most of my adult life, so great to see everybody here. Now we're talking about not just those who needed tuition assistance, but we realize when we come to a place like this, we can talk about the power of what elected officials can do to lift people up, the power of public policy. And nothing changes people's lives like good quality education. I'm living proof of that. You've heard my story of my father being able to get that college degree while he worked at the steel plant, and everything changed with that certificate, with that degree. But when going to school means going into debt and putting shackles on you for most of your adult life, then it's not as appealing. When your education is a burden weighing you down and not a badge of honor lifting you up, it's a deterrent. A lot of people just say, I can't do that. How can I do that? So earlier this year, we had a situation where New York schools would actually withhold your transcripts if you had unpaid debt. How does that supposed to work for you? How are you going to get out of get the job, and you don't have your transcripts, you're not getting the job? So we fixed that. We took care of that problem. So but today we're talking about student loan debt. Last month, President Biden, and thank you, President Biden, and our leaders in Congress, Majority Leader Senator Chuck Schumer, Kirsten Gillibrand, great champions for us. They made history by implementing an unprecedented student loan reforms and debt relief for millions of New Yorkers and Americans all over. And the impact for us is transformative. Has anyone figured out what it means for New York residents? You know the number? I had to double check this. $16.3 billion in student debt will be canceled in this state alone. That is extraordinary. That's over 15% of all the federal student loan debt is held here in New York. 15% of over a million New Yorkers will have their student debt totally wiped out. That's a clean slate. That means I can build my life. I can do all those things that I've not been able to do. And at least over 2.25 million New Yorkers will receive some kind of relief. So that's life-changing. That's what I'm talking about. Life-changing decisions. Before they're made, you're crushed under debt. Your future is uncertain. After they're made, you're liberated. Life all of a sudden looks a lot better for you, especially in these tough times people are living through. My God, it's been hard. I'm old enough to remember the old days of the inflation of the 70s. No, none of y'all here. Y'all look too young. But it's all we talked about, and it's nowhere near those numbers. But anything that raises the cost of living is hurtful, especially as moms and dads had to figure out how to pack the backpack with the same supplies our kids needed, with the cost of it going up so exorbitantly. So when you think about people crushed under the weight of student debt, student debt doesn't just defer your dreams, it can derail your life if you get caught under this situation where you're trying to be liberated from it. So I want to thank our leaders in Washington again for doing something about it, but there's another program out there that not enough people are talking about, except people in this room, and that's the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. We're here to change that. We're here to change that. Let's get the word out. let's let people know what this means so more people can take advantage of it, because it can be a powerful tool to lift you out of the depths of your circumstances. And this is for New Yorkers who've really earned this. They deserve a break. I'm talking about teachers, professors, government workers, military service, social workers, people in not-for-profits, our first responders, our firefighters, our law enforcement, our nurses, our doctors, public health professionals. These are the people that we turn to during our darkest days, the darkest days in the last 100 years. We turn to them. We thank them. We bang pots for them, for God's sakes. But now, this time later, when was the last time you walked up to a police officer, a firefighter, or a nurse, or someone in scrubs and just said, thank you for showing up? Why can't we get back to that? Because they're still showing up. They're still working hard. Our teachers are still out there working hard. So let's not forget that sense of appreciation that all of us lived every day, so grateful that we weren't the ones who had to put on the uniform and show up to work, or to show up in a classroom when you just weren't sure if you're going to be able to go home safely and not spread a virus to your own parents, your own kids. So let's not end that era of gratitude. Let's just amplify it and say, no, we're New Yorkers. We'll always be grateful for the people represented here. Always, always. So they were there for us. But if someone dedicates themselves to serving others, helping others, sometimes the paychecks aren't what they would have been in the private sector, but they're making this sacrifice, especially those who go into government service. I remember as a teenager volunteering on elections, and then when I was 18 years old, I was an intern for the New York State Assembly, and I think they paid me $3 an hour, and I thought I was rich. But at the time, I believed in public service as a force of good, that I saw how policies could lift people up and change their lives. I wanted to be part of that. It was part of what I felt called to do. I'm not alone in that. So many people feel that calling. You know, I was at the Staten Island 9/11 services. I go every year. You think about a place like Staten Island, highest percentage of people who are firefighters, police officers, MTA workers, Port Authorities, police. I led a wake last night for a Port Authority officer. These are true public servants, and they are called to serve. We're grateful they serve, and you know what? They don't get a whole lot in return for that. They don't get a whole lot in return. But since 2007, there's been a public service loan forgiveness program. Again, the emphasis on public service. Everyone I've talked about is a public servant. And in New York, this program has helped eligible workers receive an average now of $61,000 in student debt relief. This is critically important, as well as what may not be understood by everybody. This debt relief is exempt from New York State taxes. It's always have been, always will be. So if you're teaching the next generations of our doers and thinkers, if you're out there keeping our streets safe, if you're serving in our military, you're helping government run smoothly, if you're a healthcare worker who spent time in the depths of hell during this pandemic, that $61,000 is real money, you can spend on the mortgage that you only dreamed about having, or the monthly payments on a car, just basic necessities. For a lot of New Yorkers, that $61,000 is more than an annual salary. Think about that. So we want to make sure that you can access this. And this is a problem for us. The programs are out there. The one that was put in place during the pandemic is about to expire. But people don't know about it. That's why we're here today. Take the blowhorn, sound the alarm. You need to know about this, because this can be life-changing for you, your children, and the next generation when you don't feel strangled by debt. So if you have a full-time job in public service, make 120 monthly loan payments, the rest of your debt's forgiven. But here's the problem. Like I said, not enough people have signed up. And I say, well, why? That's my most prevalent question I've had as governor. Why? Why not? Why? Why? It's tough to work for me. I'm always asking. We call it pressure testing. Because there's a huge barrier to entry. When you peel it back, Why is it such a hassle to be able to access a program that's been there for you, it recognizes you, it honors your service, and it'll make your life so much better, but people don't know about it. Only a fraction of eligible borrowers actually even know how to apply. And those who do, some of them, their applications aren't even approved because they may have forgotten something. So too many public service servants have been left high and dry. President Biden had a plan for that. He had a limited time waiver that expands the pool of eligible people for this debt relief and allowing people to retroactively receive credit for previous federal loan payments. And for New Yorkers, that's a lot. We have 2.7 million New Yorkers in this space of public service or non-service. So for them, I want them to know loud and clear, read my lips, it's expiring. It's expiring on October 31st of this year. So can you all help me get the word out? Can you sound the alarm? Can you let people know? Thank you, media. So today we're kicking off a campaign to raise awareness about the waiver, the deadline, the eligibility requirements. We're working with organizations across the state who've pledged to help us. And also, DFS has created a toolkit. Here's some information, real simple, or real easy here. Big print for people like me, big print, you can see this. Okay. Let's make sure people know about this. There's a website, you can access information, but we're also announcing we're making it easier because we also think that there should be people, when you call on a phone, they answer the phone, they answer your questions. We're also announcing I'll be secondarily signing a bill that makes it easier for other public service employees to take advantage of this. And it establishes that teachers and faculty who work 30 hours a week, including time spent outside a classroom, are considered full-time workers for purposes of this. So thank you, senators. Thank you, Assembly member, for recognizing that some jobs have different hours, they have different descriptions, but they should not be denied the opportunity to be liberated from this debt. So that's what we'll be signing in a few minutes. So we plan on increasing enrollment, decreasing paperwork, the mistakes, the headaches. Let's just wipe that all out. Let's just make it easier. And going forward today, we're going to make an extraordinary commitment to take care of these individuals who made a commitment to help educate the next generation. I also want to mention someone who's here today, Genevieve LaForge, a philosophy professor at John Jay, who's now eligible for this program. She wasn't before. She grew up low income in Pennsylvania. Her mom worked odd jobs to help make the family's ends meet. In 2008, she had to take out a $74,000 loan to go to Penn State, where she studied politics and philosophy. Since then, she's not missed a single payment in 14 years, which means she's already paid $69,000 on the $74,000 she borrowed. But because of interest, she still owes $54,000 more. If it wasn't for the bill we're about to sign, she'd be paying off her loan in another 16 years when she's 58 years old. That's the kind of person we're helping here today. She should not be approaching getting Medicare, having this noose around her neck. So to liberate her, this will help change her life. And you know what she's done? She's dedicated herself to teaching incarcerated individuals at Otisville State Correctional Facility, helped the college pipeline program. So look what she's done. Look at the investment we made in her, and she was willing to do this. So thank you. And I just want to tell you what she said about this. Don't take my word for it. She said, what this bill does, it makes me feel whole again. It'll lift up what feels like punishment for the crime of being a poor kid who just wanted to go to college. How many other Genevieves are out there in our state? Let's let them know they don't have to spend their entire adult life paying for the privilege of having a college education. This is New York. We take care of our people. We honor their service. Let's give Genevieve and all the others like her a break, and all the other public sector workers who deserve nothing less. Thank you is nice, but something like this is transformative. So I'm grateful to all my partners here today. Let's get this done. Let's get the word out, everybody. Can we do that together? All right. Thank you very much. With that, I'd like to bring up Senator Kevin Thomas.
Good morning, everyone. Come on, guys. Good morning. Thank you, everyone, for being here today. A couple of people I want to acknowledge before getting started. Thank you, obviously, to the governor and her staff for making this happen. Thank you to our Senate Majority Leader, Andrea Stewart-Cousins, and her leadership. My Assembly co-sponsor, Assemblyman Epstein. My conference members who took this over the finish line. We have Senator Jackson and Senator Kavanaugh here. Thank you so much. My amazing staff, my counsel, Jamie Sheehan in the back, my comms director is here as well, Tyler, and all the advocates that are here today. I'm the chair of the Consumer Protection Committee, and I took over this committee when we took the majority in 2019. And we've been focusing a lot on student debt relief. As you know, student loan debt in the United States has grown exponentially in recent years and is now one of the largest forms of consumer financing in the country. At the end of 2020, about 43 million U.S. borrowers owed nearly $1.6 trillion in federal student loans, and approximately 90 billion of that outstanding debt is owed by 2.4 million New Yorkers. When the student loan program was first introduced, it was to bolster the country's economic competitiveness and national security. Then in 1965, President Johnson signed into law the Higher Education Act with the intent of encouraging social mobility and equal opportunity. Simply put, he wanted to get people out of poverty and into the middle class. That is not the case anymore. How did we get here? Today's student aid crisis has its roots in the 1980s. In 1981, the Reagan administration, with a coalition of congressional Republicans and conservative Democrats, pushed through Congress a combination of tax and budget-cutting measures. No federal program suffered deeper cuts than student aid. Spending on higher education was slashed by some 25% between 1980 and 1985. For middle-class families, eligibility was changed as well. Low-cost, low-interest subsidized federal loans were limited to families with household incomes of less than $32,000 at the time, regardless of family size. Effectively, these changes shifted the federal government's focus from providing students higher education grants to providing loans. Prior to these cuts, states paid 65% of the cost of colleges, and federal aid covered another 15%, leaving students to cover the remaining 20% with their tuition payments. Today, it's completely reversed, with students paying 80% of the tuition, and this is why the need to take out loans in the first place. Fast forward to today, and we see how such policies from decades ago have impacted the lives of millions of Americans. We are in major debt. Tuition is outpacing students' ability to pay, and the share of students taking out loans to finance their degrees has also risen dramatically. When the federal government is asleep at the wheel, states must step up to protect its student borrowers. And that is exactly what we started to do in 2019 with the passage of the Student Loan Servicing Act, which gave the Department of Financial Services power to oversee federal student loan servicers and created the Student Loan Bill of Rights. We didn't stop there. This year, you heard from the governor, we ended the transcript withholding, which schools use to deny access to transcripts because of outstanding debts. And in just a few minutes, Governor will sign a bill aimed at eliminating barriers that are currently present in having your federal student loan forgiven if you're eligible for the public service loan forgiveness. PSLF allows for government and nonprofit workers who make 120 qualifying payments on their federal student loans to be eligible to have the rest of their debt forgiven. However, as thousands of borrowers discovered in the years since the program started, enrolling in this program is extremely complicated, ranging from inconsistent program term definitions to confusion about program eligibility. The state is stepping up here because the federal government's rulemaking process is incredibly slow and deadline is coming up in October to sign up for this waiver. Once again, thank you, Governor. We are righting a wrong one small step at a time. Thank you once again. I'm going to call my friend, my colleague, my partner in fighting for these student loan borrowers, Assemblyman Epstein.
You always know when Robert Jackson's in the room. First of all, I want to thank the governor for all your leadership to help so many students in need and so many borrowers in need, and for signing this bill today. It's really transformative for people's lives. And to Kevin Thomas, who's been my partner on so many higher ed bills, we've had a good run this year, and I look forward to our continued work together to ensure that we protect students and we protect people who are borrowers, and we ensure that they have fairness and justice in the system. I'd like to acknowledge some of my colleagues here. I see Assemblymember Joanne Simon is here from Brooklyn. And as people say in the Assembly, the line of leadership, the 52-year career of Assemblymember Dick Godfrey, who I'm not sure anyone will know what the Assembly is like without Dick Godfrey being there. So thank you for both of you for being here. And so we understand this struggle as people who went through higher education and the cost of going through school. Time and time again, we see families after families not being able to afford college. And once they get through college, having these enormous debts. Student loan forgiveness is an important but underutilized program because it's so complicated, even though there's so many highly qualified candidates who want to go into public service and know about loan forgiveness. Over 500,000 public servants are today eligible for this loan forgiveness, and potentially millions others once the governor signs this bill. Just 2% of New Yorkers currently qualify for current loan forgiveness. 2%. Today, we're here to change that. That's what the president did last year by giving people another shot in. People have until October 31st to be able to apply retroactively for this relief. What we're saying is to educators and nurses and public defenders and community organizers who took on debt to go to college, that they have the opportunity to forgive that debt by setting clear guidelines and eliminating the confusion that has been so many barriers for this enrollment. And for those who teach for multiple classes, creating a multiplier effect to ensure that the work that they do outside the class hours are accurately reflected, and to ensure that the agency remits paperwork for those workers to the federal government to help so many more New Yorkers to forgive that debt. Again, this waiver expires on October 31st, so we all have a responsibility over the next 6 or 7 weeks to educate the 20 million New Yorkers and those that might be eligible for this loan forgiveness to apply now. I encourage all the public servants out there, nonprofit workers, to have student loans, to learn more about this, and to work with the Department of Financial Services to be eligible for this relief. As more and more New Yorkers are eligible for loan forgiveness, we need to make sure we take additional steps around any other implications that this taxes may have on New Yorkers. Again, Kevin Thomas mentioned earlier the transcript withholding bill that the governor signed earlier in this year. We saw time and time again where students' transcripts were being withheld for either a $5 book fee or even $5,000 in outstanding debt. But withholding that transcript prevented people from moving forward. Loan forgiveness and not forgiving this debt prevents people from moving forward. We're closing that barrier today. Again, I want to thank the governor and Senator Thomas for all his partnership and for the amazing advocates here, the Student Borrower Protection Center, the New Yorkers for Responsible Lending, PSC, USC, UPP, NYSIT, and all our other labor allies to help us get us over the finish line. We are doing this together, and without you all, we won't be able to help people make a difference in this city, state, and country. And that's what we're here to do, to allow public servants to be just that, public servants. So thank you. And now I want to bring up James from PSC CUNY, who really been a leader on this effort to get this done. Thank you, James.
Good morning, everyone. It's really an honor to join you here at the Borough of Manhattan Community College. It's one of CUNY's 7 extraordinary community colleges. I'm thrilled to be joined by so many BMCC faculty and staff. Thank you for coming out today. And on behalf of all 30,000 members of the Professional Staff Congress at CUNY, thank you, Governor Hochul, for prioritizing higher education workers in public service loan forgiveness, and thank you for recognizing especially the contributions that our adjunct faculty make to the higher education workforce. In your first State of the State address, we heard a new commitment to public higher education, and today many adjunct faculty who were carved out of public service loan forgiveness will now qualify. So thank you, and I also want to thank Senator Thomas, Assemblymember Epstein for sponsoring the bill, Majority Leader Andrea Stewart-Cousins, Speaker Carl Hastie, and their leadership teams, and all the legislators who supported the legislation. And thank you to our statewide affiliate, NYSET, and the amazing PSC members who advocated for this legislation. CUNY's 11,000 teaching adjuncts staff the majority of our courses, and as educators know, teaching requires more hours outside of the classroom than inside. It's planning and researching, preparing materials, meeting with students, assessing their work. Many adjuncts work the equivalent of full-time, but they've been overlooked because only their classroom hours count, and this legislation changes that, and it recognizes the full-time work that's performed by so many so-called part-time faculty. Public service loan forgiveness requires employment of at least 30 hours per week, and we estimate that thousands of CUNY faculty will meet the threshold because of this legislation. We're excited to celebrate its enactment, and the work of adjuncts often goes unrecognized in our two-tier academic labor system. We began to right that wrong at the PSC when we negotiated with the City University one paid office hour for every single class that adjunct faculty teach. And now, thanks to the governor, those who regularly teach 3 courses per semester will qualify for loan forgiveness. So this legislation is a step forward to fixing the student debt crisis that prevents so many New Yorkers from living their best lives. And when we confront the student debt crisis, we also address structural racism because Black college graduates are saddled disproportionately with debt. On average, Black graduates owe $25,000 more in student loan debts than their white counterparts. So we're grateful to Governor Hochul for her continued commitment to CUNY, and today for putting money back into the pockets of our members and into New York's economy. We appreciate the work that you and the legislature have done to help many CUNY faculty members eliminate their student debt and to bring a critical measure of equity to New York's higher education workforce. And now I'm pleased to introduce my counterpart in the SUNY system, Dr. Fred Cole, the president of United University Professions.
Thanks very much, James. Thanks to all of you. It's great to be back in Manhattan. I was just down here for the Labor Day parade, but the thing is, I think at some point we got to get you all upstate. There's a lot going on upstate, and representing the faculty and staff, the nearly 40,000 members of UUP, so much is going on at SUNY campuses each and every day to make our state better. And it really is an honor to be here today to represent those members who work from campuses in Buffalo to Stony Brook, from the North Country to here in New York City, particularly at Downstate Health Sciences University. This is, without a doubt, an historic occasion. For well over a decade, SUNY has been neglected by the state of New York, but starting with your State of the State in January, Governor Hochul, you made it clear that those days are behind us. in articulating a set of ambitious goals for SUNY and making a commitment to the work that UUP members do each and every day on behalf of our students, our patients, and the communities in which we live, made it clear that those neglectful days were over. And today, we are taking an important step forward because this legislation, championed by Senator Thomas and Assemblyman Epstein, shepherded through the legislature by Senate Majority Leader Stuart Cousins and Speaker Hastie, reaches out to those who have been burdened by student debt through no fault of their own. Believing in the promise of higher education, those who will benefit from the expanded Public Services Loan Forgiveness Program undertook the education that they did because they believed it would improve their lives, the lives of their families, and their communities. Due to the skyrocketing cost of higher education, far too many have been left with unjust burdens on their financial situation. The law that Governor Hochul signs today means that the process of loan forgiveness is simplified, it is streamlined, and expanded to those who need this help the most. The thousands of part-time faculty who teach our students in the most difficult of circumstances and are compensated with barely livable salaries. They needed this desperate help, and today, Governor, you are delivering it. And on behalf of our members, I thank you. You have called on us to get active, to do the work of publicizing this, and UUP will get the word out. We will expand our debt service clinics that have been in operation for over 3 years now, and through those clinics, UUP members and their families have already seen $2.1 million of student debt canceled, and we're going to pick up the pace because of this legislation. This is a start and an important one. Furthermore, we in UUP are confident that your commitment, Governor, to SUNY is not limited to this one action, as important as it is. UUP stands ready to work with you, along with our friends in the New York State Legislature, in PSC, and all of our sibling unions to make public higher education, once again, a high-quality experience for all of our students. Further, this work that we do together will serve to build up every area of the state where New Yorkers are eager and willing, especially the members of UUP, to move our great state forward so that it can be the standard by which all states are measured for their commitment to a just and humane society for all. Thank you, and let's sign the bill.
It's now time to sign the bill. We ask that all joining us here in attendance please remain seated during the bill signing ceremony. Thank you.
Bill is signed.